Alrighty, again, so thank you again for joining me on this daily market analysis at 9:45 p.m. tonight, GMT plus 8. We have the Bank of Canada releasing its interest rate decision. Market is anticipating a 25 basis point rate cut. Put it into the chat, let me know what do you think. If you're on the session, do drop a message and say hi, especially if you're new to the session. Let me know where you're joining us from. And for all the regulars, big welcome back. Hi Jimmy, how you doing? Feels I haven't seen you for a while, but good to have you back. Hey Christina, good morning. If you can, help me out. Do remember to click that like and subscribe button. It does help massively somehow or rather. So do remember to click that thumbs up button through the session. And if you have any questions at any point in time, please feel free to put it into the chat and let me know. All right, I have been super busy today, through the day, trading the US yen to the downside. I know pound yen, euro yen was all pushing lower, but I was just watching the US yen traded it down, had about 30 something pips to the downside. I still have one holding running, hoping that it's going to break that current level. I can't remember what is it. Looking for it to break that level to head lower. If it breaks, I'll get in, I'll get out. If it doesn't, if it holds at that point, I'll look to get out of that trade as well. Okay, so I have closed out a couple of trades on the US yen, some small scalps, a medium one, and then holding one looking at about 130, I think a take profit about 130 pips for a target. Okay, if you have any trades that you have got into or you'd like me to look into, do put it into the chat and let me know as well. So you do scalping on yen. I do scalping on pairs which has a good volatility, it has a good movement, trending well. So that's why I keep watching. That's why I do the live stream during the day. You know, we're scrolling through different charts, different pairs, trying to find whichever is moving. Then I do some scalping trades, I do some intraday trades, and then if it moves well, I don't like holding trades for too long, but if it does well, then maybe a bit longer, but looking for it to be a bit faster as well. I am coughing. I am still coughing from continuing from yesterday, so bear with me on that. Jimmy said US yen becoming my favorite. It is. Aussie yen was my, Aussie dollar was my ultimate favorite when I first started. Then the yen took over, then the pound took over, then, but while I was trading the pound, I was always trading the yen as well. So yen is always been that number one pair that I love to trade. I love to predict where it's going to get to. I love to predict where the BOJ could intervene, where it could reverse strongly, scalp it, position trade, swing trade. Don't get me started on the yen. I won't be able to stop talking about how amazing the yen is. In fact, there was one time, many years ago, where I traded the US yen, pound yen, and euro yen right from like 9 a.m. in the morning all the way through to 3 a.m. at night or the next morning. Barely even stopped. Just doing quick scalps over and over and over again. I think that was when it went from 90 or 80 something up to 100, if I'm not wrong. I can't remember the price. During that one day. So that was a massive move on the yen. All right. Hey Nev, how you doing? Good morning. Hey Noah Chuku, hope you're well. Good morning. Okay, let's get started. Quick disclaimer: any information contained on this webinar should not be construed as advice and is presented as educational material only. The contents of this webinar are not intended to be a recommendation to trade a financial product, so please remember that your objectives, financial situation and needs has not been considered, and you should consider its appropriateness to your circumstances. Right, now, take that away. We're just about 8 minutes away from the release of the PMI numbers through the Eurozone. Firstly, we have the French manufacturing and services PMI to be released in just under 7 minutes. The German at 3:30 manufacturing and services PMI. The Eurozone as a whole at 4, and then at 4:30 the UK, the pound manufacturing and services PMI to be released. And like I was telling you all earlier, at 9:45 p.m. GMT plus 8, we do have the Canadians, the Bank of Canada, with their interest rate decision. Overnight rate for the Canadians looking to go from a 4.75 down to a 4.5%, a 25 basis point rate cut expected to come from the BoC. So we'll look into that. From memory, I'm not going to scroll back. I can't remember when is it exactly. So from memory, the Canadian CPI or inflation growth numbers have been slowing down. It's gone towards its, or it's quite close or at its target level of 2 to 3%. So that's one reason why it's leading to that rate decision. In fact, wasn't it just recently that we saw that, like last week? Let me see. I kind of remember talking about it. There you go. CPI. It was just last Tuesday that we saw that. Trim CPI 2.9, median CPI 2.6, common CPI 2.3. So well within its 2 to 3% target level, and that's why that's pushing the BoC towards that rate cut decision, taking it down, or likely to take it down from 4.75 to 4.5%. Then with that as well, tonight we do have US manufacturing and services PMI to be released as well. What you notice is, and I've said this all through the, I don't know how many, you know what would be really interesting? Counting how many live streams we have done already. I couldn't even guess. I couldn't even guess. But yeah, counting through all the many live streams that we have done, I think we've definitely gone past 100, maybe 200. I used to pay a lot of attention to the PMI. PMI is a purchasing managers index. It's a leading economic indicator that tells you about the industry, the manufacturing or the services industry. You know, it's a leading indicator telling you whether it's in an expansionary phase, which is over 50, or whether it's going to be in a contractionary phase when it's under 50. And I used to pay a lot of attention to it back in 2008 to 12 period, right? 2008 2012 to 2012 period. Pay a lot of attention to the PMI, not so much now because I don't see it affecting prices as consistently as before. Okay, so main thing that I'm paying attention to here is that PMI for the French at this point, it's still below that 50 level, right? It's still below that 50 level, so it's still indicating that contractionary phase. While German PMI services, German services PMI 53.1 to 53.2 in expansionary, it shows like it's climbing back up slightly, but overall you'd see that manufacturing PMI for the Eurozone 45.8 to 46, a small increase, while services PMI 52.8 to 52.9, a small increase as well. I don't see this as a likelihood that it could push the euro very significantly. Could be wrong, but I don't see that pushing the euro up a lot. It has been dropping, right? It's been dropping right down to this 1.0843 level. So I think that it might find a bit of a support here, but I don't see it pushing all the way back up. Then with the UK, 50.9 to 51, 52.1 to 52.5. Again, small improvements expected on the PMI, but I don't think we're going to see it push way back up. It might have a blip to the upside before continuing down. I think that it is. Right now, we're still seeing prices being driven by the dollar index or by the volatility of the dollar index. Then we'll talk more about the CAD when we get to that. The loonie PMI for the US 51.6, 51.7. Services PMI 55.3, 54.7. Again, not huge increases expected. So I don't think we're going to see the PMI, the release of the PMI data forcing prices strongly in a particular direction. Okay, with that, tomorrow as well, not much. We have President Biden speaking tomorrow. Not much else till 8:30 with the advanced GDP for the US. Okay. Oh yeah, and speaking about President Biden, I was trying out some AI voiceover thing on the video. So it is in the channel about the presidential election. Do check it out if you haven't already. Let me know what you think. Leave a comment as well. Now, with that said, looking at the charts, inverted head and shoulder, I thought was going to play out last night or slightly late last night, but it came right up to that 104.50 level, failed to break strongly from that point, consolidated, and over the last couple of hours, 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, pushed back down and is still sitting in this consolidation. Right, so what we're looking at here, again, it feels like we're talking about the same thing over and over again because Monday was quiet, Tuesday was relatively quiet as well. We've looked at that inverted head and shoulder. We were first, well, not we, I was first thinking they would come down to that 104 level, forming a nice head and shoulder to push up. It didn't happen. On Tuesday, I revised that to a skewed head and shoulder to push back up. It came right up to that 104.50 level, didn't break to retest that 104.80 resistance. So it's still sitting in that consolidation right now. It looks like we might see this push back down slightly. Okay, so take that away for now. Looking at this, checking this point. I see you guys chatting away on Discord. Hang on. Okay. All right. Now we look at this. Just checking the level. So catching the bottom right here that we saw on Thursday the 18th to the top that we saw on Tuesday and early this morning, so around the same top. We see this. I don't need this anymore. I can take that away. I see that. In fact, I'll take that head and shoulder away, inverted head and shoulder away as well. But what I'm looking at is this 104.20 level is going to be quite crucial as it's that 38.2 retracement level. All right, so we take that away. Okay, so it's sitting in that consolidation. The main thing I'm looking for here is that the dollar index needs to stay above 104.20. It's just at about 104.40 right now. It needs to stay above 104.20 for upside potential. I wouldn't say it's bullish, I would say upside potential. Just thinking that at the worst or at the most it could come back down and bounce back up. But okay, but if I took this and pushed up, you'll see that the trend line is holding it up as well. The bullish trend line is holding it up slightly. So this down, you know, even if it breaks that trend line, I wouldn't be too fast. I'm only looking if it breaks below this 104.20 level. Ultimately, I'll add to that and say currently consolidating, needs to stay above 104.20 for upside, for further upside potential, to retest 104.80 resistance. Okay, so what I mean by that is I'm looking at it sitting in this consolidation, which actually, if you even did that, you see that it's holding this level slightly, right? So I'm looking at it sitting in this consolidation. If it does break, I want to see it bounce off this point to push up. Or better still, the better scenario would be for it to consolidate, bounce off this point and push back up towards that resistance level of 104.80. Okay? If that makes sense, put it into the chat and let me know as well. Then with that, what I want to show you, what's one very interesting thing I want to show you is that, I'll zoom in a bit here. Okay, right there. Oh, it's really interesting to me. But I was looking at, thanks Rita, I was looking at the, where was it? At 11. If I'm not wrong, it was at 11 when the dollar was starting to push back down, right? At 11, when the dollar was starting to push back down, you see that at 11 on the Kiwi here, right at that point, although the dollar index was pushing back down, we still saw the Kiwi push to the downside. All right, so at that point you should realize that, hey, it's not so much about the dollar strength or weakness dragging the Kiwi down. It was possibly not so much the news, because there was no news for the Kiwi, but it was that trending scenario, right? That trending scenario that was dragging the Kiwi down. Okay, that was dragging the Kiwi down at 11 all the way until at 1, where you see the dollar really have that push to the downside. Then you saw the Kiwi find that support and start to bounce back up again, right? And bounce back up again. So that's quite interesting when I was looking at it. Dollar pushing down, but Kiwi pushing down as well. This was a trade we talked about yesterday. I was anticipating for it to test the resistance and push back down. It didn't do that. It just went right here and just slowly pushed to the downside. Would have been a good 50 pips. I didn't get into this trade because it didn't bounce off that resistance. If you got into that, do let me know. Now that it's showing a slight bounce on the Kiwi dollar from that support, right, I would be looking for that point to hold. 5950. It is pushing back up. I'm looking at it to push back up towards this point. Let me think. Push down. If the dollar breaks We know it's consolidating. I don't want to put that there. I want to highlight this point here. If the dollar breaks this slightly bullish trend line and comes down to test 104.20 before possibly bouncing back up, then you're likely to see the Kiwi dollar push back up, right? You're likely to see this push up because of dollar weakness. Let me see, it is at a very low point. If it breaks that, it can come lower, okay. Based on what I see is that it could push back up. Possibly what I'm anticipating, again, might err on the same, make the same error. I'm looking for it to test and reject back down again. Right now, if you look at this, you can see that the TSRI MACD is crossing over, slightly early signal that we could see the Kiwi push up. So I'm looking for it to test and reject back down. 5945, very tight stop, no more than 15. Take profit would be your 25. I don't like that. You could, okay, the thing is, you could look at that. Yeah, the US dollar didn't even bother about the Bollinger Band. Let me see. No, it did. It's bouncing off that point. I don't like this. It's just too small. Right? Okay, so what I would like to see, in the best case, hey Naren shorted the Euro Kiwi. We'll have a look at that shortly. Well done on the 50 pips. Push back up. I feel that I was going to say that maybe we could look for this to test and reject, but it's too far. It's too far. I don't like that move. I feel that anything could happen in this range. All right, so what you'll be looking at is 5945, stop loss 20, take profit. You can go for that 75, knowing that you have that point here which might pause and hesitate a little bit. Okay, so we're looking at that, push up, test, reject, maybe bounce, and then go down that way. I'll keep to that, 5945, 20 to 75 to the downside. Leaving the 24th. Okay, sell 0.5945, stop loss 20, take profit 75 to the downside there for the Kiwi. The dollar pushing, finding that support on the trend line, pushing back up a little bit. So I'll be looking for that. I'm happy with that. Then onto the Aussie dollar. I think Haider is not on the session, not sure. Haider, if you're on the session, let me know. Well, he sold the Aussie down. He sold the Aussie down. We were talking about 6580 as a strong support level, support area. Right? He closed out of his Aussie trade. I think it was a very good close because the next moment it came right back in, bouncing back up right now. So we were talking about this earlier this morning. It's a bit pointless to do. I feel like it's a bit pointless to do that whole level down. It's just a little bit too far away. I don't think we'll see it push back up. We don't need that. I don't think we'll see it push back up here. Maybe. All right, so if considering that we have this point here and 23.6 right there, what I would highlight in this case would be that the Aussie needs to stay below this point. Again, test and reject. I don't like looking for test and reject because you just never know how much is it going to retrace by, right? So we're looking for a test and reject 6620. You would look to sell down at 6615. Stop loss will be tight at 20 pips. Take profit, you would have almost 40 to the downside. I would say find that support at 6580 first. Right? So that is what I would do on the Aussie. The question could be that could it break all the way back up if the dollar does push down? It looks like it's pausing right now, so I wouldn't think too much of that. Let me see. You know what you could actually look to do instead? We're talking about the Kiwi to retrace before pushing back down again. If that's going to happen on the Kiwi, then what if you went in to look for the Aussie to sit there and push down? Okay, so what I mean by that is, we talked about a Kiwi pushing back up to reject and push back down. What if the Aussie does not push back up to reject and push back down, but instead the Aussie sits there in this area before pushing back down from that support? Then you look to sell down 6570, stop loss 20 pips, take profit. I don't see 115 to the downside. I don't see that big news. I don't see any big news for that big push to the downside. I would say even 70 would be fair with a hesitation at 6540. Okay, I like this one more given that we're covering Kiwi to retrace and reject. We're looking at Aussie to consolidate before trading lower following the trend. Now 6570, 20 to 70 to the downside. 6570, stop loss 20, take profit 70 with a hesitation at 0.6540. There we go. Okay, I'm happy with that. Oh, look at the dollar. Shot right back up. Shot right back up. So that's done. The yen. So yen, I was selling down earlier to the downside. I had one at 155.20. Dropped about 30 something pips. Closed out. So I've got that running as well. I've got one running and one closed out and a lot in the middle. Now that it's found, and why it was dropping was because there was a couple of hours ago there was increased speculation that the BOJ could taper was eyeing to schedule a tapering in July 31st and possibly hint on rates, and that's why we saw the US yen or the yen strengthen to push to the downside. But now that it's found this point, right, and it's tried to break, bounce back up, tried to break, bounce back up, sitting right there, it looks like it could push back up. This was what? This was the one we talked about yesterday. 60 pips to the downside. That's done. Now looking at this, What if I took this move a little bit lower and tried to find 23? It's right there. I don't need that. I actually don't need any of this. It's there, but I don't really need it, because what we're looking at here on the yen, it's bounced very strongly off this 154.60 level on the 4th of June, right? Once it bounced off, it bounced and started pushing to the upside. And we all know what happened here on the 11th of July. We saw the intervention bounce, and then this was the next intervention they spoke about before gradually coming lower again. Now at this point, with increase, so why it's popping up now, it's likely due to this on the dollar index, this move. Right, so we could be just looking at this pushing back up to possibly you know, saying that it's going to pop back up is a good 100 pips, or almost 100 pips to the upside. Well, 100 pips to the upside. I was going to say that, hey, it looks like it's going to be too much for it to retrace, but it's dropped that amount in 4 hours. It's dropped that amount in 4 hours. Could it retrace? I do think so, especially with that dollar strength, some dollar strength coming back into play. What would possibly be the move would be, ooh, I need to look at Euro US. Thanks for that, Christina. I was just thinking there, right at that point. It's sitting there right across, possibly because of the news. Nope, news is terrible. The euro dropped. Terrible news, right? So it's gone from 53 to 52 on the German, the 43 to 42 on the manufacturing. We're going to look at 4 o'clock. So what has happened is pushed the euro down, which has dragged the US to the upside. I'm looking at this. Okay, take that away. It could. What could happen here is that on the US yen, it'll sit in that consolidation, or it'll push up slightly, but we're looking for it to come back down again. You could be looking at getting in the middle here, a little bit higher risk. You'll be looking at a move of that kind of move, but the safer approach, what you could be looking at is 154.45, stop loss 30 pips, take profit 65 to the downside. And I like that. 154.45, 30 to 65 to the downside, and a lot of downside potential to come as well. Okay, 154. I forgot my number. 45, 30 to 65. 45. Stop loss 30. Take profit 65 to the downside. Diana said US yen tagged into PM low. Yeah. So it just touched and it's bouncing. That's why I was thinking that it might bounce halfway up before turning back down, but I don't want to get into that halfway because it could do anything in the middle there. So I'll be looking for it to break that previous low before heading lower. Okay. Then on to the pound dollar. We were talking about this. It took such a long time could have triggered now, but I think that it would actually be safer if you look for it to break that support level. All right, we had that, and it was a slow move down. In fact, if you just looked at that way, it's had a big downward move, and then it's slowly pushing down. Again, on dollar strength scenario, I wouldn't be looking at buying it up now. I'll be looking for it to break that support, 1.2850. 1.2850, stop loss very tight, 25. Take profit, you'll be looking at a 70 to the downside towards that 61.8 level. 1.2850, 25 to 70, yes, I'm happy with that. We're done with that bearish flag, take that away. Looking to sell at 1.2850, 25 to 70, 1.2850, stop loss 25, take profit 70 to the downside. Oh, sorry, PM is not afternoon, is a previous month. Touch the previous, so we're looking at the yen again. Previous month, yep, June's low, and that's why once it touched, it bounced back up a little bit, potentially forming that double bottom. I'll show it to you on the H4 time frame. It'll make a lot more sense here, right? So you see that touch and bounce. Now, if it bounces from here, it could form a double bottom, but I'm still thinking that it's going to push down. It's going to retrace slightly now before pushing back down. Okay, or I don't know how much it's going to retrace by, but it looks like it's going to retrace before pushing back down. Not ready to buy it up yet. Pound dollar we spoke about. Euro dollar, right? So euro dollar, this was the funny one that I got into yesterday. Those of you who are on Discord, if you're not on Discord, the link is there in the descriptions. Do make sure you join. But those of you who are on Discord, as the euro dollar push to the downside, and it broke this pattern here, right? Broke that low, broke this pattern. I got into the euro. I got into the euro, and then it pushed down. I was super happy. I was watching it. And then I think about that point, I posted it in the group as well to say, you know, watch out. I'm looking for it to break this point. The next moment, it comes right back up. And then it sits right across through the whole night and the morning. This morning came in to the office, saw it sitting right at the same point, and I thought, I held it. I held it yesterday. I held it through the night. I'm out. And what happened right after I got out? Well, not right after, but the news has now pushed it to the downside. Okay, I'm pretty sure Haider is still holding on to this on the euro, right? Because I was doing my trades, a couple of trades on the yen, so I couldn't hold on or didn't want to hold on to the euro. Would have been a bit of a over leveraged. So I had to close that out. These are done. Take those away. Now that it's pushing lower, stronger to the downside, again because of those news. We have PMI to be released in about 20 minutes. Ha! Hey Haider, how are you doing? You must be smiling from ear to ear, happy with your profits. I think you did Aussie, you did Euro. I think do you do yen? Yen as well. Doing very well. Yes, Euro dollar is outside of the Bollinger Band. I do think that there is that downside potential. There's further downside potential on the euro, but you're looking for it to retrace back up slightly before pushing back down again. Okay, so that's what I'm looking for, and you can see that it's 38.2. So if it breaks that point, we're looking at 1.08. I want to see it bounce. It's not so much that the news affected the dollar index. It's really a bit more like just the news affecting the euro, and the euro is like 40, 45. I don't know. I can't remember the percentage, but about 45% weightage of the dollar index, and that's why when you see the euro moving quite strongly, you see a relatively similar inverted move on the dollar index. Okay, so let's check something. I'm just trying to see how much could it retrace by. I don't think it's going to retrace by that much. Famous last words, and then it shoots right back up. Okay, I think that. Can we come back? Okay, we'll come back to the euro. I want to give it some time to see what happens here, because ideally I would like to see that do this and push back down. At this point right there, I wouldn't be too happy to sell it down for now. So we'll come back to the euro. We look at the US Swiss franc. Look at it. Dollar pushing right up. US Swiss franc should be following the dollar back up, but it's pushed up. Let me of this, take this away. It's pushed up to that resistance area, failed to trigger our trade level, and we kind of expected this as well, for it to push up and consolidate and sit there right now. I'm looking at this. Needs to stay above that 23.6, or needs to not break that 23.6. Finding that support. Dollar index still looking like it's trying to push back up. I would actually keep this view. Yeah, I would keep this view. I wouldn't want to try and think of selling down. Euro is pushing down, which should technically be a bit of an inverse on the US Swiss franc, but it's not showing that yet. So you can take the opportunity to prepare for it. 8930 20 stop, take profit 40, cash this point first to the upside. Okay, 8930 20 to 40. 8930 stop loss 20, take profit 40 to the downside. Okay, then I know we still have euro, we'll come back to that. Then on to the uscad. Remember tonight, 9:45 p.m. GMT plus 8, we have the Bank of Canada with the interest rate decision, and they're likely to take rates down by 25 basis points. Could they surprise markets and do nothing? Yes, that is always on the table. Do we know for sure what they're going to do? Not yet, but the likelihood is a rate cut. Remember, we saw the CPI data somewhat supporting that. Now looking at this, that's fair. H4, that's fair. I don't need that. I just want to catch this point. Big resistance up there. Okay. So now again, I don't need that. Take that away. Again, USCAD sitting along below, just below that 1.38 level. Just below that 1.38 level, consolidating. Okay, sitting right there. So what you want to see, if the Bank of Canada cuts rates, a lower interest rate should lead to lesser demand for the Canadian dollar, which means a weaker CAD, which means it should push up. Hence, what you'd be looking for would be 1.3810. I think it's very similar to yesterday's view. 35 to 80 to the upside. Okay, so consolidate, bounce around, news breakout to the upside. 1.0810. 1.38, sorry, not 1.08, 1.3810, stop loss 35 because it's a news, take profit 80. 35, take profit 80 to the upside. Now you're probably thinking, no one typed that in, but you're probably thinking, what if? What if the Bank of Canada does not cut rates and they keep it on hold? Then might see a little bit of a retrace. Okay, the last time they did this, where they cut, so they did take it down on June 5th. Oops, June 5th was right there. But this one, you see that it was pushing down on June 5th. It pushed up till it was outside of the Bollinger, came right back in, and then over the next couple of days, pushed back up again. Where am I? June 5th there. Right? Came right back down, found this level, and then pushed back up again. So now with that said, then I'll be looking at this. Even if they do just hold it, I think that it might drop, but it might drop. It will sit there and push back up. I'm still looking at it to push back up, so I'll keep that view. Now back to the euro, we gave it some time. It is still sitting along that 1.0830. I didn't expect it to retrace too much because it was showing a bit of weakness on the recovery. It is showing on a smaller time frame, the 1 minute time frame, that it could push lower. Bearing in mind that it is outside of the Bollinger, wait 9 more minutes now actually for the hour to close. Then you could be looking to get in. 1.0825. I don't like that. I think it's gonna, I'm quite sure, I don't like to say sure, I'm quite likely, I think it's quite likely that it's going to push down. I just don't like how it's dropped. Okay, I'll think of it the other way, as if we're trying to figure out how to sell it down to this support level, is it worth that hassle trying to figure out that 20 pips? Right, at best that 22 pips. Not worth, not, you know, so that's what I do. I sit there and go, is it worth stressing out about this trade? It's not worth trying to, you know, figure out whether the euro is going to drop for that next 22 pips. What I would like to see then in that case would be if the dollar does have that big push to the upside, then you'd be looking and saying, okay, break that 50, that previous swing level. And then we could see the next point here at about this point here, 1.0760. 1.0760 there, okay. So I would say that you'll be looking to do this 1.08. Take profit here will be about 44 pips, 45 pips. Stop loss will be tight, no more than 20. There we go. Right, so it might push. What might happen is that it'll come down, trigger, and head lower. In the better scenario would be that it sits there, it retraces, then you look to sell it down for that big downside move, bigger downside move. So 1.08, 20 to 45, that's what I'll be looking for. 1.08. No, we're not looking. Okay, stop loss 22, take profit 45. Alrighty. Hey Jamil, how you doing? I love it whenever Jamil pops. Jamil does this every day, and it's amazing. Amazing, and I love it. Is that he pops on? He goes, "Hey, my Gold trade made money. My Gold trade is running now in good profit. Super happy," and he's off. So very good. Thanks for jumping in to share that. Right. So gold pushed up. I was expecting it to push back down. It continued retracing higher to 24.19, 24.18. Now, I would say that we're still looking for the same thing. At this point, I wouldn't be doing anything yet. Looking for it to break down from this 24.12 level downwards, 23.90, 23.85. Okay. We see this point here. Okay, okay. So now I'm looking at this. That's all done. Take those away. Okay, so now that it's tested and tested, somewhat tested and rejected. That's good. Okay, okay. Now with that, if you short it down, no, we're not going to do that. I will keep that same view. I don't want to do anything in the middle here. I'm just trying to force, it looks like I'm trying to force something out in the middle here, and it could really do anything at this point. With the dollar pushing back up, we should be looking for gold to drop lower. So same thing, 2380, 2350. So you're looking for it to wait for retracement to complete. I typed that already. Right, then you're looking to sell down, needs to break 2380 to sell down to 2350. 2380, 2350. Yep. Okay. That's what we have. So we're still looking at this to the downside. Alrighty, super. Okay, so if you have any questions, please put it into the chat and let me know. The Discord link is there for you guys as well. If you haven't already, you can help me out massively by remembering to click on that like and subscribe button. I will keep the stream running. I'll turn off my camera and my microphone, but I'll keep the stream running as we look and monitor the charts and trade together as a companion, miles and miles and thousands of miles apart. But I'll be here for you guys. If you need any help, put it into the chat and let me know. Share a trade idea, share a trade setup. I'll be happy to give you my point of view as well. Okay? So trade well, trade safe. I'll see you all on any of the platforms out there. Take care now.